Hi, Renee. Welcome to Forward Joy.
My sweet Chrissy. Hello.
So good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
So, ahead of this conversation, I was obviously thinking about when we first met, and I was searching through my camera roll because I remember, I'm pretty positive it was the first facial you ever gave me. It was like you did this green mask, and it was like leading up to Halloween. So, you would put these little like spiders and
So that definitely was not the first one
it
because
wasn't. Okay.
well, actually, I probably should look at my calendar. I wonder if my calendar goes by. But yes, we did a Halloween one and I let people pick out all their accoutrements to put on the mask so they could take a fun selfie. So it's
So
not popping up,
I think we
but
met in 2016, though. I think 2015, 2016. I can't remember if it was like, did Tina Craig put us in touch or
oh,
you
could
just
be.
reached out to me? Like, I don't even
Yeah. Yeah,
remember.
you know what? I think it was Tina because you weren't technically beauty, right? You
Right, I
were
wasn't. I was
more
a fashion editor.
fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly what it is. Oh my God, good memory.
Shout out to Tina Craig. We
And we
love
love
her.
our Tina. I know.
Um, but you have been like so instrumental in like my skincare journey because you were the first person I really like fostered a relationship with when it came to taking care of my skin. And,
Yeah.
you have this incredible namesake line, Renee Rouleau skincare, and
Thank you.
you, first of all, you have so many products, but you also have a lot of products that are dedicated to people who struggle with acne. And I've struggled with acne for a very long time. And, you were the first person who really taught me that, like, even though I have oily skin and even though I'm breaking out, like, my skin still needs moisture.
Right. Adult acne, right? The
Yeah.
needs of adult acne, which is
Yeah.
very different from teen. Uh-huh.
Um, so yeah, I just want to kick off by saying thank you for that and how much you have like
Yes.
educated me about skin. And it's been a very long journey. And we're gonna get into a bit about your business, but of course that's not the only reason why you're here, and that's not the only thing that we're gonna talk about. But yeah, I would love to hear like what were you interested in skincare as a kid? Like, tell me what you were like as a kid and like how this interest kind of developed.
Yeah, so I'm the youngest of four and we moved a lot. So change has been a big part of my life from kindergarten to my senior year in high school. I was in seven different schools. Fun fact, my dad was like I think the number 13 employee for Target stores back
Whoa.
in the like early 70s because I grew up mainly in Minnesota and that's where Target was.
Right.
But yeah, so he was like part of the first team when Target started. So anyway, so my dad was in retail, but he moved a lot. And I mean, he was climbing the ladder, getting new jobs and things. And so I moved a lot. But my grandmother was a hairdresser on my mom's side, and she had her own hair salon called the Powder Puff Beauty Shop, which was in Wisconsin. And then she also had a little station at her house. And so she would do friends at home. And I was just, I have two sisters and one brother, but I was the one that was just always in her hairnets and rollers and sitting in front of her little station doing my hair. And I just always was drawn to beauty for whatever reason. And so when it came time, at this point, I went to high school. I went to high school for 2 years, junior and senior year in Boston. And 99% of my high school would go to college. And I was the 1% that that was not my path. And I remember the guidance counselor being like, oh, wait, like, I mean, essentially, like, oh, there's nothing in here in my employee manual for how to talk to someone who didn't want to go to college. Because also, the high school I went to was considered the number one highest ranked public school system in the state of Massachusetts. So, like,
Wow.
people went there, really for the education. And, so it was really weird for me to be the 1% that didn't do that. But college was not my path. I decided to follow in the footsteps of my grandmother. So I actually started out as a hairstylist, got my
Right.
cosmetology license, but then there's nothing and then I worked at a salon and I was an apprentice. And so you start by shampooing all day long, and then
Hmm.
eventually months in, you work up to kids cuts. And there's nothing that challenges you more that if you can make it in this industry than giving a screaming 2-year old a haircut that's sitting on his mom's lap and you are doing everything not to cut his ear off. And it was just like, I was like, I'm out. I went through the boot camp of being a hairstylist and I failed. I can't make it. But simultaneously, the salon, and this is 1989, and the salon actually had an esthetician and had a facial room, which was really like a facial wasn't really a thing back then. And I was always gravitating towards talking to the two estheticians that worked there,
Hmm.
and was we all went to a trade show once, and I was hanging out with the estheticians and doing all the and I was like, no, this is clearly my path. And so
Yeah.
so then went to school to become an esthetician, and my coworker ended up becoming my business partner. I had a skincare salon for 5 years outside of Boston. At age 21, I became both an entrepreneur and, full-fledged esthetician, and then eventually sold my half and moved to Dallas and started Renee Rouleau in Dallas in 1996. And it's been 29 years, but now I live in Austin.
Right. How did you even like have the guts to just start your own
I know.
skincare business?
I
Like, I
look
mean,
back at it
why?
and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I was just fearless.
So
I
fearless.
I mean, I had at 21, so this coworker, she was 13 years older than me and she had two young children. And she
Hmm.
always wanted to open up a business, but she didn't want to do it by herself because she had two children. So we just hit it off so well. And she was my mentor and she was like, "Do you want to open a business with me?" And I was like, "Yes." And her husband was a CPA, so he could handle that. And so I just
Hmm.
said yes. I mean, would I have started a business at 21? Probably not. I mean, I was new. I was only an esthetician for 2 years. So I would have eventually, but not at that time. And then the decision to sell my half of a very successful business and move to the state of Texas to Dallas, where I didn't know anybody, and just start all over was, I just wanted the decision was a personal reason why I moved to Texas. I
Hmm.
just wanted to start over. I didn't, in Boston, I was a business owner at 21, and I was really mature, really driven. All my, friends, I'm still friends with now, but they were all in college and partying, and
Right.
I didn't want that life. And, I
Yeah.
was more serious that way. But it's really hard in Boston to break into new groups, right? It's kind of like, oh, if I haven't known you since out of the womb, like we're
Yeah.
not friends. And so I just
Right.
couldn't personally, I just wasn't finding like my tribe.
Yeah.
And so I ended up moving. I said, I looked at Atlanta, Nashville, um, Austin, Dallas, because I was also really into country music at the time.
And I was
But
like,
Dallas,
you really have a Southern vibe to you.
exactly. And Dallas won my heart, and I literally just packed up with the U-Haul on my SUV and just kind
Hmm.
of literally did not know one person. And so to answer your question, I think it's youth. I think it's just being fearless, right?
Right. Like, what
Like
do I
you
have to
just
lose?
exactly.
What
And
do I have to
so,
lose?
yeah, but I've also just been a really driven person. Like when I set a goal, I achieve it. Like that's just who I am. My parents will say that. Like I make stuff happen. I'm a really big executor. Like I just do it.
Yes.
That's why I love like the Nike slogan, right? Just do it.
Right.
Like
Just
I
do it.
literally just do it. Like I
Yeah.
don't ever stop, and I just do it. So I'm lucky that I possess that trait, and I think that's why
Yeah.
I have been successful because I don't procrastinate. I just do it. Like I just execute all day long, and
Of
I
course.
think that's been kind of the key to my success.
Right. And also, it's like, it's one thing to be an esthetician and open your own skincare business or like salon, but it's also a whole other ball game to start your own skincare product line. And what you did that at 26,
Yeah, I
maybe,
launched, uh-huh.
right?
I was
And
working on some products with my at my current previous business. We had kind
right.
of started developing some things and then rolled
Hmm.
into, yeah, to my own line when I started. Yeah.
And like, you were just so incredibly ahead of the game.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, the concept of an indie brand, there was no such thing as an indie brand.
Right.
I'll never forget in 2007, I won a Best of Beauty award from Allure. And I got an invitation in the mail, like formal, beautiful invitation from Linda Wells, and invited me to New York to the Rainbow Room,
Hmm.
where Lily Allen was supposed to perform and ended up getting something with her visa, couldn't come into the States. So they grabbed Mandy Moore at the last minute. So Mandy Moore sang and performed at the Rainbow Room. And this was literally like winning an Allure Best of Beauty award back then was literally an award, like an Oscar.
Life
And
changing.
yeah, and I went to, it was for our AHA, BHA Blemish Control Cleanser, which is still in my line. You may have tried that.
Love.
I
Yeah.
know, right?
That was a mainstay for me.
And
Yes.
so going to New York and seeing all the products, they were all on little display or whatever, but like there weren't indie brands. Like they were, I was up, my little product was up against all the big names back in the day, right? The Cliniques, the Estee Lauders, the
Right.
Lancomes, you know, all those lines. I mean, it was just like a miracle that I was literally like, oh my gosh, little me. But now, I mean, obviously, there's so many indie brands, and really,
Right.
it's it was really hard for me to create a line because first up, I believe there's 9 types of skin. As an esthetician, my journey as an esthetician began with one simple question. If you don't know your skin type, are you even getting results?
Hmm.
And I learned 7 years into my career that like the whole dry, normal, and oily thing that I had learned in school and that brands catered to, oh, this is our dry skin moisturizer. Well, just like we spoke about with you, Chrissy, like what's your skin type? Right? Like, is it, I mean, now it's evolved, but like back when
Yeah.
we were working closely together, I mean, like acne, it's like, or is it like, oh, but I'm not a teenager, so I still need hydration and I want all the healthy aging. And it's like
Hmm.
brands are like, sorry, take your pick. We're either going to dry you out like
You
a
out.
teenager,
Yep.
like, oh, sorry, you either have to do the teenage route, or if you want healthy aging, anti-aging, sorry, they're going to be dry. I mean, they're going to be heavy and greasy, and you're just going to have to deal with the clogged pores and breakouts. And so,
You're like,
yeah,
what?
right. And so, and this goes on to this day. Like, I feel like, especially in the adult acne space, which we really shine, we have a lot of products. Obviously, as you know,
Hmm.
like Sabrina Carpenter has been my client for 11 years and Demi
Yep.
Lovato, and they all struggle with, adult breakouts,
Yeah.
and again, I mean,
My people,
granted, I
my
started
tribe.
with, yeah, but I mean, granted, I started with, Demi and Sabrina when they were 15, but
Right. Of
now
course.
as they're older, we transition more into like, hey, we still get breakouts, especially, Sabrina, like was at ACL this weekend in Austin or last weekend, and, under the hot lights and
Of course.
sweating, and, that adds to that.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I developed a line based on 9 skin types, and people can go to reneerouleau.com. We actually just launched a new and updated skin type quiz. They can find out their skin types, but it gives all my expert advice. But ultimately, creating a line certainly back then was very challenging because we have 55 products now. Back then, we didn't have quite as many, but we still had a lot because I created a line for 9 skin types. That's why I had so
Right.
many SKUs. But finding labs to do small minimums was next to impossible because there weren't
Mm.
indie brands. Now you could, you can
Right.
white label, you can, I mean, there's just, it's easy to get into having your own product line now. But back then it was like, oh, 10,000, minimum for a product. And it was like, wait, I need to
Right.
have like 40 products on my line. Like I don't, so
Right.
anyway, but so it was challenging, but essentially I found a lab that bet on me and was willing to work with me, and I still work with them to this day, but they made
Wow.
me reasonable minimums, and I just begged them. I was highly persuasive, and they said yes, and it paid off for them because they make a lot of my products to this day.
That's incredible. And
Yeah.
something I really admire about you is that you are still the sole owner of your company. You've never sold a majority stake, a minor stake, nothing.
Hell no.
And we've
Mm-mm.
talked about this a lot in the past. And, I appreciate that you say, like, I'm not interested in building like the biggest, brand on the planet. You're like, I just want to do what I love and make products that I care about. And
Yeah.
you're like, I don't need all the money in the world. You don't need the
Right.
2 billion buyout from
No,
Elf.
no, no. Well, I mean, I think the thing is I value freedom, right?
Right.
Freedom above anything else. So any mistake I made, I have the freedom to make those mistakes. Any
Hmm.
all the successes I have, I have freedom to make those as well. And I think this is the thing about becoming an entrepreneur. The reason why you become an entrepreneur is because you have your own vision and you want to do it your way and you want to
Hmm.
work for yourself, right? You decided
Right.
that, like, I don't want to have a boss, right? But then all of a
Hmm.
sudden you sign on a dotted line, now you're getting investors and have all these people, you get into Sephora or Ulta and they're breathing down your neck and I mean, and then all of a sudden all your freedom is gone. At some point you look back and you're like, how did I get into this? Like, this was
Right.
not what I really wanted. And
Hmm.
I know I have a lot of friends that took the path of getting investment and going big with the idea of if all goes well, they'll sell. But it's like they're miserable. They're
Yeah.
miserable. Like they're like, I mean, I can't tell you how many people, not even just in beauty, but all
Right.
my entrepreneur friends that, again, got into bed with a lot of people and said,
Hmm.
Renee, if I had to do it all over again, I'd do it just like you. So yeah, I own 100% of the company, but it's based on the fact that, and I bootstrapped, right? Like I don't,
Hmm.
I'm debt free. I literally just walked into a bank, got a loan,
Hmm.
and but no one can convince me why bigger is better. And I'll ask people, people go, Renee, oh my God, you could be $100 million company. Like, and I'll say, why? Why? Tell me why I should be $100 million company. And well, because I mean, there's so much opportunity. Yeah, but like, is my life going to be better? I mean,
Yeah.
I have a roof over my head. I'm
Right.
comfortable. Like I don't, luckily I'm debt free, but no one can, convince me. And actually, do you know Samita, this book she wrote, The Myth of Making It? Do you know
Oh,
who this
yes, yes, yes,
is?
yes, 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 I do.
Yeah. So
Yes.
she wrote this last year, but she quoted me in there. But the whole concept of the book is called The Myth of Making It, A Workplace Reckoning.
Hmm.
And it basically, I mean, I live here in Texas, right? Everything's bigger in Texas, right? And there's just this thing, more, right? More followers, more money, more, like, it's
It's like,
just
when
too
is it enough?
much.
When is it enough?
Yeah. And like, and so I really, I've had the opportunity to watch people that took a different path to only realize that, like, that was not the path to joy. That wasn't the joy forward.
Yeah.
And I'm just very happy. Now, that's not to say that, it's a trade-off. Every decision you make in life comes with a consequence, good, bad, or indifferent. Not to
Right.
say, I have to wear a lot of hats, right?
Of course.
And it's a lot of responsibility, but I'm just so happy that I've done it my way. And I've been in business 29 years. We just celebrated 29
I
years and we continue to
know.
thrive. And I just made some good moves along the way. And so,
Right.
yeah.
And I guess at the end of the day, it's like you still enjoy it, right? That's the
Well,
most
right.
important part, is that you're still
Exactly.
enjoying it. I can
I love
understand if,
it.
like, you decide, like, you know what, I've done
This
this,
isn't
I've
for me
had
anymore.
enough.
Right.
I just want to go, like, travel, ride your little
Exactly.
motorcycle across the
Exactly.
country. I'm going to sell it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a
Exactly.
different story.
Yeah. And I think it would, if I was a full-time, which is why I'm not a full-time esthetician, but, and why I chose to start a business, but I love the variety
Mm,
of all the hats that I get to wear, right?
right.
I would be bored stiff being a full-time practicing in the room esthetician.
Yeah.
I love the fact that, I can, wear my finance hat, my esthetician hat, product development. Like, So new product development, like that's like honestly like the
So
creating new
fun.
products, like
Right.
yes. Anyway,
So
but
fun.
and then I love being a manager. I love being the visionary. I love guiding, leading. I love being the face of the company. I like content. I
Hmm.
don't know. So I mean, there's some things I'm not great at, but I think
Right.
the reason why I love it so much is because my fingers are in so many things,
Yeah.
and that just makes life exciting.
Right. And obviously, we're talking today because I also wanted to talk to you about your late husband, Florian. But he was also part of your company.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was your
So,
COO. What was that like?
yeah. So the backstory is I was with my husband for 22 years. He passed away from a short battle, a 6-month battle with cancer 7 years ago. And he joined my company 10 years in
Hmm.
and as the COO. And someone told me that business isn't romantic and you should
Right.
never, partner with your spouse. And I really held on to that advice. Business isn't romantic. Business isn't
Hmm.
romantic. And but 10 years in, I really needed an operations person. And there's no one better that you trust than your spouse.
Right.
And it ended up being the greatest thing ever.
Hmm.
And I ended up loving it. Now, are there boundaries that you have to set, right? It's kind of, like where you're not at every dinner just sitting talking about business, of course, but no
Right.
different than when you have children. You have to set those boundaries, right? It has to be date night and whatever. But it was great, and it you can still keep it romantic. and
Right.
um and but yeah, so he joined my company as the COO. So in theory it was kind of husband and wife, mom and pop kind of thing. and
Yeah.
um and then one day he has a sharp pain in his stomach, and 3 days later it was unbearable. We went to the emergency room and they
Hmm.
run tests, and a week later they basically say, pack your bags, you have 6 months to live. And he passed away 2 days shy of the 6 month mark.
Wow.
So yeah, it was fast, it was furious, it was tragic, it was beautiful.
Why don't you take me back to the beginning, though, of when you and Florian first met? Because I remember, you've been very open about this on social media, but,
Yeah,
about your story and everything that you've gone through with him. But I always thought it was funny that you said he wasn't your type. Like, what was
right.
what was
Yeah.
your normal type in comparison to, and like, tell us what Florian was like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. As my eyes are like welting up in
I know.
tears.
Well, go slow.
So yeah, so if I ask you, Chrissy, what's your type,
Mm,
right? You're gonna describe yourself, right? I've
mm.
tested this so many times, and people describe themselves, right? Because
Right.
why would you like
Right. You're like,
that's
I
what you
like
think,
myself, so I want someone
right?
that's like
Like
me.
compatible, right?
Yeah.
And so I too, if you ask me my type, I would say, tall, athletic, probably blonde, friendly, outgoing,
Ambitious.
driven,
Hmm.
all the things that really is what I am. And so when I moved to Dallas, I didn't know anyone, as I mentioned. And I was going under, doing construction for my spa, and there was a French restaurant a couple doors down, and I needed to find a tile person, and they were under construction as well, the French
Mm.
restaurant. And there was a van outside for Tony the Tile Man. And I saw this van and I was like, oh, I need tile. And
Right.
so I went into this French restaurant and I said, and they were under construction, as I said. And I walked in and I said, is Tony the Tile Man in here? And this little 5'6" French guy with a mustache was like, yeah, he's in the back. And years later he would tell me, that it was love at first sight for him. But I was just like, whatever. But
Right.
anyway, so yes, we met because of Tony the Tile Man. But anyway, so
Funny.
once the restaurant opened, once my spa opened, I used to go sit at the bar and have dinner at night when my last client would leave.
Hmm.
And there was this manager, and Florian, and we became fast friends and he was super funny. And but I would, share him all my dating and Dallas stories. And I had a mad crush on Troy Aikman, who at the time was the Cowboys quarterback. And so, he
Mm,
was just like my friend. And
yeah.
somebody said one day, like, I think Florian has a crush on you. And I was like, what? And again, I was like 5'6", French guy, 11 years older than me, has two children. I'm like, no, that's not my type. And and then one day, but then I continued to be drawn to him and we just had so much chemistry.
Right.
And then one day I said to myself, like, wait a minute, like the past six guys, because I always had relationships,
Mhm.
I 6 months, a year, 2 years. I mean,
Right.
I've
You were
had a lot
dating
of,
and
yeah. And
doing your thing.
exactly. And then one day I said to myself, like, wait a minute, all the last six guys on paper were my type. But it was like, why wasn't I with one of those guys, right? And
Right.
so I ended up being with my non-type, who if I was on a dating app, I would have, I don't do dating apps, but whatever way it
Right.
is to say no, but swipe
Yeah.
whatever. If I saw Florian's
Swipe left.
picture, I'd be like, no.
Right.
And so, yeah, so the person who was like so not my type and so, opposite of me, we were together 22 years. So I always tell all my girlfriends, like, don't get caught up in he's not my type. And that's why, like, you have to go on a second date, a third date. You have to give people an opportunity because,
Hmm.
like, yeah, he was so not my type. And we have to be open-minded. And the other thing I will always say is, like, I am an advocate for the short guys. And the reason
Oh, I
is
agree.
because I always dated tall guys because I'm
Hmm.
tall. I'm almost 5'9".
Yeah.
But it's like, my theory is men that are tall, they don't have they're kind of boring. They don't have to put as much personality into them
Right. It
versus like the
supports them because
Napoleon
they're,
syndrome. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. The
Yeah.
Napoleon syndrome, the short man syndrome, like they tend to be feisty, have more personality. They got because they're kind of like little fighters, right? Because like they don't have that tall.
They got to
So
work
they just
like they know they have to work a little extra hard, you know?
exactly.
They put in the effort, whereas like the tall guys just know that like whatever they can get whatever they want because they're tall. I always
Right,
tell my
because they're
friends, don't be a
tall.
heightist.
A heightist. I love that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like 5'6", trust me, put so much personality in that 5'6", and life was never boring. And as women, we need life to be exciting. We don't do
Hmm.
boring. We need stimulation. So yeah, a little shorty, they're the best.
So how long like were you going to this restaurant, hanging out, chatting with him before you were like, oh wait, I think I like him
Pro
back?
Yeah, I mean probably like I would say like I would say like 4 months.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm totally drawn. I mean, it was slow, but I mean, I always
Right.
was
We love
drawn
a
to him
slow
because
burn.
yes, exactly. And that was what was beautiful. We were friends first, and I think
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing. We actually built a friendship first, and I think the
Yeah.
best relationships start that way as well.
Of course. And also you waited 10 years to get married, right?
Yeah.
That was
Mm-hmm.
that intentional?
It was. I mean, I can't tell you how many people are like, 10 years. They're like, Renee, you need to kick that guy to the curb. He needs to give you a ring. And I was like, no, like, I'm the one that doesn't want to get married.
Right.
And if I was with someone who didn't have children, I'm sure I would have done a more traditional path that way.
Yeah.
But he had two children. My stepdaughter was a year and a half when I met her,
Oh, wow.
and my stepson was 9. So I've changed diapers, dance recitals, Boy
Hmm.
Scouts. I mean, like I
Right.
really, was a part-time mom,
Yeah.
and it was just the greatest thing for me. And so I didn't we had talked about having children, and he was like, if you want to have children, we can do that. And I thought maybe I would. And because again, like the world just teaches you that that's the path. You never stop to be like, well, wait, like, I don't
Do I
know,
really
do I
want
really
that?
want children?
Yeah.
And so I made the decision no. And at one point we talked about maybe adopting like a 10-year-old or something like that. But
Hmm.
ultimately, we didn't do any of that. And I loved being a stepmom. I it was a super fulfilling role because it's like, you're more of like a mentor, you're not the real
And a confidant.
disciplinarian.
Right.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
we were all together, till my husband's last breath. And it was just beautiful. It was beautiful. But yeah, I love being a stepmom. But yeah, and the decision to live together, because again, it was like, I just saw marriage as like a piece of paper. And I was like, what problem is this solving? I don't know. We're happy. We moved in together a year after we started dating. But then, you know, I think he kind of decided, we talked about it, but he wanted to be kind of a role model for his children because his ex-wife hadn't remarried and
Mm-hmm.
he wanted to show them something a little more traditional. And so we decided to get married, yeah, but kind of for that reason is like instead
Right.
of being like, oh, my dad and his girlfriend, like that's
Right.
hard on kids to like say that, I guess. But I really, so yeah, we got married after 10 years and honestly, Chrissy, it was more than a piece of paper. Like I just
Yeah.
thought it was a piece of paper, but
Right.
it was really like we're in this now, come hell or
Mm-hmm.
high water. Like it makes you
Right.
work so much harder because you just don't have one foot out. Or I mean, again, you always have freedom to leave, but it's
Of
just
course.
I felt truly like we were really a team. Okay, we're doing this
Yeah.
and I think that's beautiful because at the end of the day, like, I always talk about like who are your 3 a.m.ers? Like who are those people that you can call at 3 a.m. and they'll take
Right.
your
You could.
call and
Mm-hmm.
those relationships are special. And marriage to me was just like it's solidified the 3 a.m.er, who's really with
Right.
me in this life. And I think that's beautiful.
Absolutely. So now Florian was diagnosed with cancer in 2018 and
Correct.
died by December 2018. Um,
November. Hmm. Yep.
November. Take me through like finding out the diagnosis and
Oh
those
gosh.
next couple of months.
So no one can prepare you for you have 6 months to live. Like that, it just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, really for me, we're all on our own journey with this. He's battling his own journey with this, right? Knowing
Mm-hmm.
his days are numbered. I'm trying to figure out, what does this all look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
he's the COO of the company. So he's a leader in the company and trying to like, okay, well, but I have to, it was a husband and wife company essentially.
Yeah.
But now, he only has 6 months to live. I want to spend as much time with him as I can. So we
Mm-hmm.
both have to like kind of step out of the company, but we're the two leaders in the company. So that was just like, oh my gosh, like
That's a
how
lot.
how do we manage this? And ultimately, from the business standpoint, we relied on our team,
Mm-hmm.
which was beautiful because you really had to learn to trust, rely on people.
Mm-hmm.
From that moment forward, I became less of a micromanager. Not that I'm not a bad micromanager, but I had to surrender and let go of some things and
Right.
just be like, hey, they may not do it exactly how I'll do it, but they'll do it 80% as well, and that's fine.
Right.
And so all of that was really a big lesson in trusting the team
Mm-hmm.
and that changed me profoundly as a leader and as an employer.
Mm-hmm.
I think for me, the biggest thing was navigating the unknown, right?
Yeah.
Like I had never, I mean, what does it look like when someone dies in 6 months, right? I mean, I've never, I mean, I've gone to funerals and wakes and, my grandparents have died, but like I wasn't there with them day to day, kind of living
Right.
it. And what does this look like? Like, is he going to need, I mean, is he going to, what care is he going to need? What does this
Yeah.
look like? Is he going to be in a wheelchair? Do I have to, make the house handicap accessible? Like, is he going to be in pain? Is he going to,
Mm-hmm.
there was just so many unknowns. And I just, and this, is certainly, it was just a lesson that I'll never forget, which is like, I have no idea what tomorrow will bring,
Mm-hmm.
but today I'm going to make the best choices for today. I'm just going to
Mm-hmm.
focus on today, and tomorrow I will focus on tomorrow and what needs to be done. And I think that that's just such a good lesson in this life because, we we want to know the end of the story, right? We
Of
want to,
course.
we want to prepare ourselves emotionally for whatever life throws us. And but it's like we have zero control over that, right? And it's like,
Yeah. That's the hardest part.
people, yeah. And like people go, I mean, obviously we know you're into, astrology, but we go to astrologers and read our cards because we're trying
Hmm.
to get some sort of pathway, right? Some kind of
Hmm.
guidance that makes us feel
And some
uh,
certainty.
yeah, some certainty, and there was zero certainty. And again, was it going to be 6 months? Was it going to be a month? Was it, I mean, I just had, is he going to lose his hair? Is he going to have to go into a hospital? Like and it was just literally, I have no idea. I have no
Remind me
idea.
what kind of cancer was it?
Bile duct cancer, which is essentially a rarer form of pancreatic
Okay.
cancer. Yeah.
Okay, right.
So lesser, but same by the time you have symptoms, it's in stage 4
Right.
and it's a death sentence. So yeah, so I think like, just really having to surrender to that, and just constantly have faith that like, I use the word a lot now. It's all figure it outable. I use
Hmm.
that every day. I mean, I use that a lot. Like I didn't have that back then, but
Hmm.
we figured it out. We figured it out, and again, trying to balance like how do we make the best of
Right.
the last time, of his life, but then at the same time he was incredibly sick, and so it's like a lot of people be like, oh, I lost my husband. He died of a heart attack. I wish I would have had like 6 months notice to, you could say all the things and do all the things. And yeah, in movies, that sounds wonderful, right? Like, oh, 6 months to live. Let's go sail the seas. Let's travel the
Right. Let's
world.
jump
And
out
I
of an
was like,
airplane and go in a hot
exactly.
air balloon.
Bucket
Like,
list. And it's
right.
like, but wait a minute, he's sick,
Yeah.
right? And it's like you can't do that. You're staying tethered to a chemo, and it's like, and also the part of it was he had tumors on his liver that sent pneumonia to his brain and caused paranoia and anger and
Oh,
symptoms of schizophrenia. And
oh wow.
so in theory, it was like living with like a schizophrenic to a certain degree. And they gave
Wow.
him medication that they give to schizophrenics, but he refused to take it because he said, and I had to honor his journey. So as much
Right.
as I want him to be calm and at peace, I had to honor his journey, and he basically said, my body is shutting down, but the only thing I have left is my brain. Like I can still
Okay.
use my brain. And he didn't want to be medicated
Mm-hmm.
and lose any
Right.
senses or who he was. And I had to honor that, right? I had to go through this was my journey, being a caretaker, a loving wife, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to learn to respect what he wanted for his journey. This is his last days of his 6 months. And even though, he said really horrible things because of the cancer and
Right.
all the symptoms there, but I had to just say this is his journey and I can't take this personally, and I had to give up trying to force him to take the medication,
Mm-hmm.
and then eventually he did. When he knew his days were limited, he started finally taking it. I
Mm-hmm.
think like 3 weeks before he passed away, and it wasn't all. I mean, he wasn't all horrible, but
Right,
that
of course. There was
was that.
bouts of it, but
Yeah, 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 yeah. So it was a lot, but it was really, and I use the word, tragic and beautiful, but if you go back to mine and you read it all, I'm sure, Chrissy, but when I back in 2018, 2019, I would share, I Instagram posts about it, or if you go to the
mhm.
hashtag this is
This
Florian, a lot
Florian,
of them are
yes.
there.
Yeah.
But watching someone, I watched someone die,
Yeah.
and not only watch someone die, but someone having advance notice and how they prepare for that. And there were so many beautiful things for what the body was doing, how the
Mm-hmm.
body prepares you for death. I mean, there was a
Mm-hmm.
story on my Instagram about he was in the shower and he felt like he was floating, and the doctor said some people believe that it's the angels. Um, picking you up and
Mm-hmm.
getting ready to carry you to the next life. And another story about his watch going off, stopping because there's something about when you're dying, your watch stops. And I mean, just these wild
Mm.
and beautiful stories of kind of what happened that like didn't make any
With
sense.
like
And
synchronicities that would happen.
yeah, yeah. And just watching, I mean, I hate to say it, but like the demise of the human body and
Right.
just I mean, the body is so incredible, and miraculous and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and then, I'll share this quick story, which is when they give you the book, with hospice, and they tells you kind of what happens as the body's shutting down. So we did kind of have some advance notice that it was getting close,
Mm-hmm.
probably a few more days or something like that. But Florian was, he was a Frenchman. He always was very into grooming, Frenchmen love cologne and,
Mm-hmm.
just prim and proper. And so he very much valued like self-care and grooming. And even to close to the end, I mean, we were, giving him sponge baths and all that. And he just, liked to be well kept. And the morning of his passing, a hospice nurse was giving him his sponge bath. And I mean, she was able to lift him up. And I mean, he was still kind of there. But the minute that she laid his head down. Now he was all done. She laid his head down and he passed away right as his head was in her hands.
Wow.
And another hospice nurse said it's very common that people will pass away right after they've had a sponge bath because
Wow.
they're now getting ready to go to their next
Mm.
life.
Oh my God. That gives me the chills just thinking
I know.
about it. That's really
But he was ready, and
profound.
they think that people kind of hold out until that, because they're only getting sponge baths like every 3 days or something. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but literally as soon as he was done, he
Wow.
went.
The whole concept of like knowing that this is coming in, however many, but like he was given 6 months, I think so many people think that makes it easier to know that like, okay, you at least have this time, but
Oh,
it's never easy, right? Like I have a lot of death anxiety, and so I've never had anyone super close to me pass away. So of course, like my biggest fear is like my parents dying, and I sometimes will like ruminate over like what is that going to be like, and I'll kind of play it
right.
out and how am I going to feel? And I remember talking to an old therapist about this, and he was like, it doesn't matter how much you play it out in your head, like you're still going to have to go through it and experience it, and it's still going to be hard, but you're going to be able to you're going to get through it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think, as I said, I was on my own journey of watching my partner husband of 22 years pass away, but he was on his own journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that he was headed somewhere else. And so my worries were so small compared to what I can only imagine,
Yeah.
he's going through. Like I
Right.
don't, and we would talk a lot about it, but
Of course.
two quick stories to share on that. One is shortly after he got diagnosed, I ended up meeting a girl in Austin, has a company called Eternova where they make ashes into diamonds. And it was literally, I met this girl like 2 weeks after he was diagnosed. And so I came home and it was an entrepreneur group thing, a meeting I was at. And so I went home and I said, I met this girl and she makes these, ashes into diamonds. She was actually on Shark Tank and Mark Cuban's an investor and the whole thing.
Wow.
And he said, that's how I want to come back. He said, take me on your adventures with you.
Oh.
And so he wanted to share with his children that he didn't want to be buried, but he wanted to be cremated and made into diamonds to give to them. So we had, I think about 2 months or so, a little bit less. his children moved in with us. They quit their jobs and moved to Austin so we could all be together. So he had the founder of the company from Eternova over to the house to do a whole presentation on how it works. Because, you get the diamonds made in Germany and this is how they do it. I mean, it's a whole process. And we sat at our kitchen table, and here was this girl, the founder or co-founder of the company, doing this presentation, explaining how it works, explaining to his children, this is what I want. And I just think to myself, like, what is that like sitting there knowing that in 6 months you're going to be made into an ash? And the strength he must have had. And the whole thing is with that company, it was the first time, I think the company had been around 2 or 3 years. They had never made ashes into with someone who was currently living. It's always you bring the bag of ashes after the fact. Oh, this is my grandmother for 10 years ago, my dog, whatever it
So
is.
this was their first time like in a planning session with the
In a
person who
plan
was
with the
passing.
person. Yes. And that
Wow.
just was like, and again, the strength he had. But he was a in the French army, he was a sniper in the French army. He was very strong.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think to myself, like, this is the kind of strength he never knew he'd have to have.
Right. Of
And
course.
he was, and there were times that he would, break down, but I mean,
Yeah.
he was so strong. He was very logical, and to your point about Chrissy, when you say like fear of death, like, yes, I echo exactly what you say, but I no longer fear death. I
Right.
have absolutely surrendered to it. I because it was just so, again, I say tragic but beautiful. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
just this is the circle of life, and
Truly.
it's so, yeah, I'm totally fearless about death now.
Were there any like rituals that you had, big or small, that kind of helped you ground yourself while you were going through this and like your whole grieving process?
After he passed away, you mean grieving?
Yeah.
Um, my faith, prayed
Mm-hmm.
a lot and
Mm-hmm.
just surrendered to what it was. I think the thing, after he passed away, I had to stand in front of my company and let them know that I'm in charge now. I'm the leader. And I remember like standing in front of them and being like, okay, Renee, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And then I was like, no, like I can't, I have a tattoo called Suck It Up Buttercup, and it's kind of an homage to my dad because that's kind of, I grew up in that environment. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
no, like I'm a human being.
Of
Like I just
course.
went through something that every human being will go through, which is the loss of someone they love.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think really what two things that I really leaned into after he passed away. One was music, because the
Mm-hmm.
house was very quiet,
Mm-hmm.
and music saved me. It was a distraction, you know. I, and actually, Chrissy, I love your playlist. Like I
I
listen to your,
know.
I can't, at least twice a month, I'm listening to your playlist.
I
So
love
anyway,
it. I know. I
so
feel like
please.
even when I came over to your house, I feel like there was all like already music playing when you arrived home.
Yeah, oh yeah, no music, everything. Yeah, if I need it, if I'm ever feeling down, give me some Afro beats and my
She's
world is
good to
happy.
go. I mean, music
Uh,
is transformational. Like
it
it's
is, it
transcendent.
is. No, absolutely. And then the second thing was just really surrendering to the feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would think about myself like in a bathtub of like grief. I would just like, I mean, I was literally in the bathtub, but I was just like, if I felt like, because, they always say, which I, experience too, it's like ocean waves, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it just hits you out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And during those times when it hit me, I would just close my eyes and pretend I was just in a bathtub filled with the darkest, deepest grief, the hurt, the pain. And I would just say, just like surrender to it. Just let me feel it so deeply, and versus suck it up buttercup, which is how I was raised. And
Yeah.
I think that that was really, really helpful, is just to like just feel the feelings instead of fighting it,
A
because I
hundred
just figured like
percent.
at some point it's going to come back and bite me. So I was like, just deal with this now. And then I also, another thing too is grief. And again, grief is divorce, grief
Mm-hmm.
is death,
Losing a friend,
betrayal. I
like,
mean, all
yeah.
the things. And I thought it was very linear. I remember that first week. I was like, oh my God, please God, let me just get through this first week. Just week two will be better. Okay, I made it through, I mean, it was just like a day by day thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like week five, and all of a sudden it felt like week one all over again. And I was like, oh my God, like what's wrong with me? Like, it's 5 weeks. It should be better. And it was just like, Renee, just stop. And as
Yeah.
women, we just want to try to control everything. We have the answers and we hang on for control, and it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
no, just surrender, just surrender. So going through all of that, I am such a better human. I'm such a better friend. I'm so much more easygoing. I don't worry. I don't fear
You don't
things,
sweat the
right?
small stuff.
I don't sweat the small stuff. And, but I had to go through a lot to really learn that. And just,
Yeah.
and really what it is surrendering to the unknown, just, and
100%.
again, just one day at a time. Tomorrow I'll figure out tomorrow. Like I can't get ahead of myself because I
Mm-hmm.
don't have the answers. I mean, just yesterday, you know, Robert, who works in my warehouse, we're moving into a new space and we're getting bids for construction. And he said, I'm waiting on two quotes right now. He goes, but I think we're gonna come in over budget. And he goes, do you want to talk about like maybe what should we prioritize first to have done in the new space? And I said to him, Robert, I said, I am not going to give one bit of energy or brain cell to the unknown. Like, let's wait until the data comes in,
Right. And then we make a
and
decision.
then, because I'm not going to spend time on the
The
not
what ifs.
reality, right? The
Yeah.
what ifs. So I said, let's wait. We'll cross that bridge when it gets there, but I'm not worrying about a scenario that is not true.
Mm-hmm. I get that big time. What did your support system look like while you were grieving?
Um, I don't know, I'm pretty independent that way.
Yeah.
So I just kind of, I mean, I had friends to lean on, but no one can really understand. I mean, they
Right.
were supportive as much as anyone can be, but I mean, what do you say, Like ultimately you just kind of have to go through it. So I didn't see a therapist. I hadn't seen a therapist in years. I think I got one maybe a year after he died, and
Mm-hmm.
and and I wasn't there wasn't a problem I was trying to solve,
Right.
but I kind of said, because everyone's like, "Oh, are you talking to therapists?" I was like, "No, like I'm just kind of relying on myself." And then I thought to myself, well, I mean, I work out. I have consultants in my company. I mean, I do a lot of things for my health, my business. What
Mm-hmm.
about my mental health? What about for my brain? I was like, maybe
Exactly.
let's put a couple deposits in the bank there. And so I did work with a therapist, um, and that was helpful. But
Yeah.
again, like no one can take away that pain. And
No.
and I do think like ultimately, I think I mean, it's not rocket science. I'm sure we all know this, but I mean, it's just time, right? There's no magic
Yeah.
wand. No one can say anything that just makes anything go away. It's just time, and you learn to adapt to the new normal. That's what it
Right.
is, the new
Yeah.
normal.
Um, I also realized it was your wedding anniversary this week, wasn't it?
Oh,
Your
I didn't post
19th,
any. I
your 19th
know.
wedding
You are
anniversary.
so sweet. I didn't. It was 2 days ago. I was on a photo shoot all day and I knew the day was coming. And normally I would post something up on stories about it, but
Yeah.
I just got busy and didn't do it. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I loved our wedding day, and yeah, but it feels like another lifetime ago, really.
Yeah. What's it like to reflect on the life that you had with him?
Oh my gosh, as my tears will start to flow. When he was sick, and this is the benefit of having someone not die suddenly, but we had a heart-to-heart conversation, and we got the opportunity to ask each other if we had any regrets in our marriage. Was there anything we
Mm.
regretted?
Hmm.
Was there anything we needed to say sorry for?
Hmm.
And I'm just so proud that we had nothing to say. We were proud of the way we conducted ourselves. I mean, not to say we were perfect, but I mean,
Of
like,
course.
there was nothing that we didn't feel good about. And
Yeah.
I'm so proud of that. I'm so proud of that. I'm a believer that the grass is greener where you water it.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that like the divorce rate is 56%.
Mm-hmm.
And I always just plead with people like that are unhappy in their marriage. I'm like, no, like put effort into it. Like it's salvageable, and but it's just nature, it's just normal for things to lose that
Right.
excitement. And it's like, but that's life, and I think even just like in dating, like, oh, he's not my type, but it's like, it's a dance. We have to like, we can't
Yeah.
just like pull the plug the minute like he did
Things get
something
tough
that,
or
yeah, or there was something you didn't
disappointed you.
like.
Right.
Yeah. Like that's no, like we are humans trying to figure out how to, as men and women, the age old book, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, right? Like
Yeah.
we're from two different planets
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out how to coexist and
Coexist.
cohabitate together.
Yeah.
And we need to figure this out, and it's all figure it outable if you
It
decide
is.
that that's what you want to do.
Totally.
But that goes for any relationship,
100%.
so yeah, we figured it out, but I never took him for granted. I
Yeah.
always, I always knew the grass wasn't on the other, wasn't the
A
grass
little
wasn't
greener.
greener on the other side because you're just exchanging one set of problems for another. I say
Another.
problems, but I mean
Right.
just challenges or
Yeah.
and I was like, I knew I had a good thing, he adored me. We were happy. He was fun. He
I
wasn't,
mean, it really seems
you know,
like you had a once in a lifetime kind of love.
it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was lucky, I was lucky. But again,
Amazing.
I controlled my destiny. I put, again, it wasn't happenstance. It was like strategic choices. You make choices every day how you want to navigate in relationships, and we worked on it
Mm-hmm.
and kept it fun and exciting, and yeah, it was great.
Amazing. So then, what was it like to get back into the dating pool? And at what point did you feel ready to do that? Because I'm sure that's also really, really tricky. And because also, like, even if you meet someone else and um, you're always going to love this other man no matter
Right.
what.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, anyone dating me needs to know that um, that's just part of my story, right?
Yeah.
But at some point I had to move forward, right?
Hmm.
And a lot of people, I couldn't hang. I'm a visionary. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm always looking forward anyway. So luckily, I have that trait where I'm like, okay, what's next? Like, I mean,
Hmm.
not in the case of Florian, but like in business,
Right.
great. We
Of
we we
course.
got this. We achieved this goal. What's next, right? That's just my nature. So I'm always forward thinking. Like very rarely do you ever hear me like I'm just not a backwards person talking about yesteryears,
Yeah,
like
for sure.
even like talking about like okay, we launched e-commerce in 1999 and back then we didn't have social media and blah blah blah. Like I don't always love to just sit and talk about the good old days. I'm always talking with my company and it's like this is
What's
where we're
next?
going, right?
Right.
Our new website launches next month. So excited and like
Hmm.
forward thinking. So I I think it was after about like 6 months that I had like a shrine of him down in my kitchen, all like
Hmm.
different mementos and frames and pictures and things like that. After 6 months, I took them upstairs into my
Hmm.
home office and put them on a shelf. And then,
Hmm.
and then probably a year later, I still have one picture, but I took down a lot of the things. And it
Yeah.
was more just like, it was just a sign of forwardness, right?
Yeah.
So in, in relationships, I'm also that person that doesn't dwell on the past in a relationship. And I don't bring this is a new chapter, new beginning. So in dating, I just, you know, when I would date someone, I mean, of course, it's normal to be like, oh, and especially at my age, someone's been married, they've been divorced, so it's normal to talk about your resume, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want someone feeling like they were walking into this heaviness, and that's just not my nature anyway. I like to keep things fun and energetic or whatever. Um, but yeah, so I honor him in my own way, but you know, I'm not talking about it all the time. And I've just I look at it as like a chapter, like that
Of
was a
course.
chapter and
Yeah.
new beginnings and that sort of thing. So I wasn't, a relationship fell into my lap after about 7 months. I wasn't looking for it, but I knew that at some point I would get back to dating. And also because this is the thing too, like because Florian had the opportunity to tell me all, his wishes. He wanted me to be happy. Who wouldn't, right? Like
Of
he
course.
want life goes on. Go find somebody. I want you to be happy, fall in love all over again. And
Mm-hmm.
and so there was part of why I did, I wanted to move forward and find happiness again, whether it was in love or just me as a human, because
Mm-hmm.
that was honoring him, And so I would
Right.
always, when I would talk to women that were grieving, they're like, Renee, like it's been 10 years and I still cry every day. And I can honor and respect that. And I get that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important though to me, honoring Florian was moving forward, right? He
Yeah.
doesn't want me crying every day and being sad. And so
Mm-hmm.
I did have to have that suck it up buttercup
Mm-hmm.
kind of an attitude, but I did that to honor him. That was my way of celebrating him because that's what he wanted for me.
Right. And he really did seem like someone, your relationship was just very full of life and adventurous.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, he doesn't
Yeah.
want you sitting at home crying for
No,
him
the show
day
goes
after day.
on. The show goes on. Yeah.
I want to talk about the little dating hack that you told me about
So
when
Chrissy and
we when we
I,
had dinner.
she comes to Austin, and yes, I have a PhD in dating. Let's just say that.
But yeah, tell me about the contact method.
Yes. Okay. So I'll give you a little bit of a backstory, and then I'll explain that. So essentially, what happened was the relationship that fell into my lap, was my first relationship out of the gate. I was a grieving widow, and um, I thought it was a beautiful relationship only to discover that it wasn't.
Hmm.
And I was naive. I trusted when I shouldn't have.
Hmm.
And, but let's just say that people are strategic when they prey on the weak.
Mm.
And so I went through a very bad situation, but life needed to teach me some lessons. And so after that, I realized that I don't know what I'm doing. My picker is broken. I'm new to this, and I will not, I needed some education on modern relationships and just things to look for because I was so trusting and where I shouldn't have been and wasn't
Hmm.
paying attention to red flags and things that didn't seem right. But I was like, oh no, everyone's so wonderful and trustworthy in this world, only to realize they weren't. So, with that being said, I looked at it like just like anything in life, right? If you want to learn a language, you have to learn the language, right? You have to
Hmm.
study and take the courses and do all the things. Well, I looked at it like, okay, well, if I want to learn dating and finding love, and I need to learn how to do this.
Right.
So, how I educated myself was I got onto YouTube and I just watched, every YouTuber relationship expert and just I literally was like, okay, this is a part-time job, and because I'm not gonna get back into the situation that I had just left. And so I consider myself very well versed in dating. And eventually I did hire a matchmaker, as well, because, they kind of cater to successful women. And
Hmm.
I didn't have time to like just be messing around. And I was like, ooh, the concept of hiring a consultant that is working on my behalf behind the scenes was amazing. Highly recommend a matchmaker. I know you just had your part two of the matchmaker on your podcast.
Maria,
So
yes, she's
yes.
amazing.
anyway, so one of the things that um, I did, this was from um, a recommendation from the matchmaker, actually, because they kind of wanted me to, they're doing a lot of the heavy lifting, but it's still good for me to use my network. Well, in business or in life, the power of your network and referrals, right? Where did you find your therapist? Where did you find your hairstylist, your massage
Right.
therapist, your trainer, your whatever? It's usually your gym, whatever. It's usually from a referral, right?
Yeah.
Like somebody was like, oh my gosh, I got a guy, I got a girl, whatever. So I thought to myself, and in my business and Renee Rouleau, like all of our customers come because somebody like you, Chrissy, says, oh my God, Renee Rouleau has great products, right? It's word of mouth.
Right.
So I was like, why not use this in my dating life? So
Hmm.
I went through every contact in my phone and starting with A, and I don't know, I have 1,500 contacts or whatever. Starting with A, went through every single contact in my phone. And I was strategic on who I reached out to for referrals. I was
Hmm.
very thoughtful on how I did it. One kind of rule I kind of determined for myself was I wasn't going to ask single girlfriends because I feel like a lot of them are like, honey, I'm just trying to do my own thing. I'm not going up to bat for you. So
Right.
women can just be a little funny that way. So I asked my guy friends and I asked friends that were married.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did, I was very, very intentional with how I asked.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't just, most people would go, hey, FYI, I'm single. If you know anyone, let me know. And that's fine, but I was very intentional and I said something very heartfelt. Okay, this is what I said. I said, I'm reaching out for a favor because I have learned in this life the power of referrals and word of mouth. I don't know if you know, but I'm single yet actively dating. You are someone I trust very much, and you make me feel comfortable enough to reach out to ask you about this. Dating has been challenging, and I'm not having much luck meeting quality single men outside of my circle. So I was wondering if you might be able to tap into your network and make an introduction to anyone who could be a good fit for me. I said, I'm open to anyone ages 40 to 53. So this was, I don't know, 4 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
40 to 53, driven professionally, smart, fun, someone who is sociable enough and kind, basically a solid good guy in any ethnicity. They can have children, and I'm open to any location in the US because I have the flexibility to travel. Perhaps you know of someone or know of someone who knows of someone. Thank you for being a safe place for me to open up. Please let me know if anyone comes to mind in the coming days and weeks.
Beautiful.
And the return on the investment of that, like people took it so seriously. They were like, oh
Mm.
my gosh, Renee. And again, I didn't send it to everybody. I
Right.
was very strategic.
Yeah.
And I got some really great referrals from those people. All the while the matchmaker was giving me good referrals as well. But I get to later on into my contacts, and there was a guy who we were colleagues. We had known each other for 16 years. We had taken a cosmetic chemistry course at UCLA together, and we had kept in touch a little bit on and off through the years.
Mm-hmm.
And so he came up on my contacts, and I was like, oh, whatever. I was like, I haven't talked to him in a while. And it was more not to reach out for a referral, but more just like, hey, friend, how are you? And so
Right.
I reached out to him, and I'm happy to say that we have been dating for 3 years, and I'm in an incredible relationship, and
Love
I
it.
could not be happier. And it's long distance, but basically, the moral of the story is I believe that the love of your life is either in a contact in your phone or somebody in your phone knows the love of your life. And use your network. And ultimately, I mean, I loved the matchmaker. I highly recommend matchmaking.
Mm-hmm.
They set me up on some wonderful dates. More importantly, they really helped me to know what I needed. And
Mm-hmm.
that was helpful, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, as women, we have our needs, men have their needs just as much, but I needed to know what I needed. So when this person showed up back in my life, it was staring me in the face, and I was like, this is exactly what the matchmaker was looking for me.
I love
So,
it.
so yeah.
I love it.
And
I'm
we
so
have long
happy for
distance,
you.
which is wonderful. I don't think
Of
it's for
course.
everyone.
No, but
And
it's
again,
for
we're
you
like,
for sure.
right. I mean, I'm independent. We don't want children. We're not at the age of
Oof.
having children. And we both have our lives and it works, but we see each other probably every week and a half. So honestly, like it's not that hard. It's not like we're going months without seeing each other.
Right.
But we both, when we're together, it's super intentional, right? So I try to
Mm-hmm.
clear a lot off my plate. We see
Yep.
each other for anywhere from 18 hours to like sometimes I'll fly, just have dinner with him and turn around and go home.
Oh,
But it's anywhere from 18 hours to 5 days, maybe at the
right.
most, but it's usually around 2, 3 days. And
Yeah.
honestly, we're both like, okay, love you, gotta go. And
Right.
but the time is really intentional, and it feels like
Hmm.
after 3 years, like it still feels fun and exciting because you get the opportunity to miss somebody,
Yeah.
like it's not
Yeah.
traditional. And I can't tell you how many people are like, when are you guys getting married? When are you guys going to move in together? Is he going to move
I'm
to
like,
Austin? Are you going to move
what
to?
about you is traditional? Like you are
I
just
know,
such a
right?
conventional woman. Like that is how your life has been set up
I
from the start.
know, right? I do not follow the follower. And it's like, and my whole life I've been misunderstood. I have been. And this is another way that I'm
Yeah.
misunderstood because it's not traditional, but just because it's not traditional doesn't mean it's not right or it can't be, it can't work. So
Right.
yeah.
And that it's clearly the right fit for you.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah. Now,
all that matters.
exactly. Now, I will say, I mean,
Yeah.
being in long distance, if he wasn't somebody that was a good texter or talk on the phone, it never would work, right?
Right.
But he is, we have our cadence, we have our kind of
Right.
routine every day of when we
Right.
talk, and so like I feel connected to him every day. And
Hmm.
again, he's a good communicator. And anytime that we're not gonna, our cadence will be messed up, he's a really good communicator. Like, hey, I'm gonna be in
Nice.
London, we're gonna
Hmm.
be off, but this is how we're gonna do it. And
Right.
so that makes it much easier.
Of course. Sounds like an adult relationship.
I know. Imagine that. I'm
Imagine
56, an adult relationship.
that. Is there any guilt or uncomfortable feelings that come up about being with someone new again?
Very much so, but let me tell you what it is.
Hmm.
When I got into that relationship, that was not a good thing.
Hmm.
The it wasn't not at the time, but when it was all said and done, I was just like begging for forgiveness from Florian because I know that Florian saw all of it and was like, "What are you doing, Renee?" And I had tremendous shame over that because I was just, again, but I was so trusting. I have not had a lot of betrayal in my life,
Yeah.
and I was betrayed on every human level possible.
Yeah.
And so that was probably the pain. I know that wasn't quite the answer you were probably expecting,
Right.
but just
But
more
but I
like
get
him
that.
being, yeah, I was just like, oh my God, Florian is so mad at me. So anyway, but no, I don't, again, like life is, like I have a garden. I'm looking out my window at my garden. Flowers die, new ones bloom in the new season,
Yeah.
and I water them and keep them looking fresh and alive. But I now understand what death is,
Yeah.
Death is just it's just this beautiful and tragic, life process. So
Of course.
I mean, I think it's just surrendering to what life is. Like I mean, love is loaned. It's it's
Hmm.
it's it's gonna end. We're gonna have heartbreak,
Yeah. It's gonna end
or
one way or another, whether that's like a
right,
breakup, a death,
right,
something.
right. It's gonna end,
Yeah.
enjoy it while we have it. But it will end. And I mean, Florian used to always promise me, he said, I'm gonna live to 100, I'm gonna live to 100. And that didn't work out that way, and
No.
that's just not what was going to be. And so, yeah, so
Right.
just that surrendering, just
Right.
again, letting go of control is
Um,
really important.
do you do you feel like he communicates with you and you communicate with him? Because do you know about I was just thinking about this. Do you know about Dr. Tara Swart, who
No.
wrote, okay, you need to, she just came out with a book because she lost her husband and
Okay.
she's a neuroscientist. She also wrote this book called The Source, which is about the neuroscience behind actually manifesting. And so she has a new book out. I don't remember what it's called, but it's about how we can communicate with people who have passed and
Mm,
and how she was communicating with her husband who passed away.
yeah. So a lot of people will ask me, right? Like,
Hmm.
do you feel him? Do you see him? Whatever. So, somebody did give me a great recommendation while he was sick to ask him, when
Right.
you
What's a
die,
sign?
what's the sign? So he didn't have an answer right away, and he said, "Let me think about it." And and so one day we live kind of downtownish, and
Hmm.
in Austin. And one day he was, really grumpy, not feeling good on the couch. Or it was one night actually. And we had this neighbor that their car alarm on their car is broken. And so every time they open up to get in their car alarm goes off and then they have to manually turn it off. And the car
Hmm.
alarm is like a beeping of a horn, right? Like
Hmm.
several times. And this beeping probably had gone off. We had already been in the house for 3 years. So every time this woman gets in her car, this has always been the case. But for whatever that day, he wasn't feeling good, and it just pissed him off. And he was like, "It's a $5 car part to get that thing. This has been going on for 3 years." And then he turns to me and he goes, "That's how you will know it is me when her car alarm goes off." Oh my God. So basically that's what he said every time her car alarm goes off. He goes, "Just think of me bitching and complaining." So basically that's how that was the sign, was a car
Hmm.
alarm. And so I there were so many times when I'd have a moment of grief or something like that, and her car alarm would go off. So, so we all think like a hummingbird or something.
Right.
He's
A
like, "This
butterfly.
lady's damn car alarm." But if you know
Oh,
Florian,
on
that
brand
was
for him.
very on brand for him. Absolutely.
How do you think we can better support friends, colleagues, anyone in our lives who might be grieving, especially when we don't know what to say?
Yeah. When in doubt, just don't say much, because you fumble over things.
Yeah.
And it's everyone's has, I always assume, positive intent, right?
Yeah.
But I've just learned, having gone through this, that like there's nothing you can say,
Right.
like, so I mean one thing is like, when he got sick, right? Everyone came out of the woodwork with a solution, right? And unsolicited advice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, again, assume positive intent. I know that everybody,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I take this green juice and it's, or whatever it was."
Yeah. You're
And
psychic.
again, they were coming from the most loving place. But I just think in life, it's always, be mindful of giving unsolicited advice.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to say, you know, would you be open to hearing, a thought I have, or something like
Right.
that? But I
Like,
think
are
it's
you
just,
looking for advice?
exactly. I think that's a good rule. But then, in terms of grief, I mean, I think probably just saying, "I can't even imagine what you're going through," right? Instead of, because what people will do, and again, assume positive intent, but people will do a comparison story, right?
Right.
"Oh, my uncle,
When I lost this person.
that's right. That's right."
Yeah.
And hey, grief is hard, and I'm not trying to say that my grief is any worse than anyone else's, but
Right.
it's just hard to compare apples to apples. And so sometimes, people will say, "Oh, yeah, my husband had such and such cancer, and but he, he's doing great now or something. So then it's like, oh, it must be nice,
Oh,
like, so
so
I just
happy
think
for you.
exactly. So I just have learned that like it's just because again, like I didn't take offense by any of it,
Of
but
course.
it's because I know they come from a loving place, but I think it's just best to just say I'm sorry if you ever need an ear. Just someone if you just need someone to listen to you, and
Right.
again, not like trying
Right.
to solve it and that
Right.
kind of
That's
thing.
what
Yeah.
that's what happens is people feel like they need to problem solve and you're like, I actually
Right.
just would love like your presence is helpful. You
Exactly.
just
Exactly.
listening, but I
Right.
don't need.
Yeah. Or a hug. A hug.
Right. Right. Um, Now with all that said, what is bringing you joy right now?
Oh, what
My
is
final
bringing me
question.
joy? So when Florian passed away, he said to me, Renee, you've been a tiger that I've kept in a cage, and it's time to let you out. And what he meant by that was, we were very opposite. Florian was he was an introvert. I'm an extrovert. He's very antisocial. I get energy around people. He grew up in France in the foster system. And when you're a foster child, according to him, but you never know, like you hold on to everything. You have a scarcity mindset
Mm-hmm.
because you weren't given a lot of things. And
Yeah.
so he ran his life that way with a scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And as the COO and head of finance, he also ran our company with a scarcity mindset
Mm-hmm.
in our personal life as well. According to Florian, we were always broke, right? Like it didn't matter what was in the bank account, we were always broke. He was a kind of a hoarder, hung on to everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the company, I always wanted to hire more people. And it was always, and he also had trust issues because again, he was abandoned by his parents and grew up
Yeah.
foster or whatever. So he had trust issues and a scarcity mindset. And so he ran our company operationally and financially that way. So we were always broke. And Renee, no one can do it better than you. And I don't trust anyone more than I do you. We don't want to hire
Right.
someone to do that. I want
Right.
you to do that. And so I, you know, was kept, I mean, again, to his quote, a tiger in a cage, trapped. And I didn't realize it. I just kind of like when he was like, no, we can't afford to hire someone, or no, no one's going to do it like you. I'd be like, okay. So
You
then I'll just
trust
keep
him.
doing it. And
Right.
so the company, I know what he meant that the company could have been a lot bigger. The company, I know he saw my greatness
Mm-hmm.
and I know he felt like he held me back. So to answer your question, what's bringing me joy is it has been a rough 7 years since Florian passed away. I lost my way both professionally and personally in a lot of ways, just, navigating by myself basically. And
Yeah.
what's bringing me joy is I am, kind of reinventing the brand, after 29 years. The house is a little
Mm-hmm.
old. We got to do a little remodel. So we're doing
Mm-hmm.
a whole rebranding for the company. I'm firing on all cylinders, feeling just so passionate, so alive. I've never been a better leader in my company. Trusting my gut, having a beautiful, supportive relationship with my boyfriend. Like just I'm really feeling at age 56 like I'm that tiger out of the cage and I
Mm-hmm.
feel authentically myself.
Mm.
I've also have really um, I have let go of a best friend that I've had since high school.
Yeah.
I recently had to have a heart to heart with her and had to close that chapter.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's more just really building the life that serves me and to who I am. The decision, we talked about breakups and romantic relationships, but it was a breakup in a friendship.
Of course.
And
That's just as hard sometimes as a breakup
yeah,
romantically.
yeah. And and people are like, "Oh, but you've been best friends for so long." But it was like it was I I'm a different person now
Right.
and have been for a long time and always, I'm misunderstood. That's always been that way. And I really have a life where anyone who is in my world needs to really understand me,
Yeah. You
and
want to
really
feel
get
seen.
me.
Yeah, you want to
Yeah.
feel seen by the people that
Yeah.
you like hold dearest. I get that. And that can
Exactly.
definitely be
Yeah.
challenging when you realize you've been in a relationship with someone who doesn't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We're just very different,
Hmm.
she went a different path in this life and
Right. And
and
it
I
happens.
did. And so yeah, so what's bringing me joy is just I'm I feel like I'm really in the driver's seat of my life and just making really good choices of how I spend my time,
Hmm.
who I spend it with. Just really intentional about everything I do, both personally and professionally. I now get up at 5:30 every morning, trying to work towards 5 a.m. But
Hmm.
just I don't know, really good habits that I don't know. I can honestly say like I just feel happy. But again, I think it's you know, I cleaned up a lot in my life.
Right.
I did a lot of work and I just
You're in a new
good
phase.
choices and decision making and
Yeah.
yeah. So lots to bring
Incredible.
me joy. I'm very grateful and blessed.
Thank you so much, Renee. I really appreciate you being here today and being so vulnerable with me and sharing this, beautiful but painful story. And I know that it's going to help a lot of people who are going through similar or will go through similar experiences. So I really appreciate you.
Yes. Thank you, my sweet Chrissy.